Hello and welcome to Cannabis Marketing Live, all puff, no fluff. I'm your host, Kendra Losi, and today we are talking about essential tips to make better videos for your cannabis or hemp CBD company. Now, I know that not many people are using video or you're just starting to think about dabbling into video. So, today our guest is here to talk about best practices and what you need to think of in order to make the best videos for your business as well as get the most out of those videos. So, with us today is Bear I had your name so well and then I just stumbled.
It's Prandelli. Prandelli.
Prandelli, Bear
Uh,
Prandelli of WulfenBear Media. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much. Good, good. Thanks so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this chat.
Absolutely, me too. I love talking video. And just before we came live, one of the things that Bear and I were talking about are just how important video is for companies to stand out from the cloud of competition, increase their visibility, and customers want to see video. They want to learn about new products and services through video. It's second only to dispensaries and bud tenders. So let's dive in terms of what they need to know. But first, before we get started, Bear, can you give us a little bit of your background and how you started your company as well as started working with cannabis companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started, when I say we, my brother Wolf and I started WulfenBear Media in 2017. I had been freelancing for years before that, doing anything from weddings to, short videos for local companies. And I've kind of, we've gotten to work throughout this several different industries. So anything from your corporate events to corporate commercials to internal videos for, stockholders and, investors and companies, as well as, full on social media campaigns that require, multiple videos for A/B testing. We've worked within the health and wellness field. We've worked within mental health, substance abuse. Um, public utilities. It's kind of been all over the place, but several industries. Um, and as far as coming into cannabis, you know, I've had my med card for several years. I've always been a pretty strong advocate for cannabis as a tool for people to heal. And, and just in general, I tend to have a little bit of a libertarian streak. So I support people being able to choose what they want to put in their body and how they choose to consume it. So both medically and recreationally, I've been a big supporter of it.
Mm.
And we started out by working with, I think the first client that we ever did any sort of work for was a CBD company that was a startup that unfortunately they never actually ended up launching. But we did a whole bunch of kind of pre-launch marketing material for them, and some things fell through on their end. But as of that point, since then, we've worked for a couple dispensaries in Arizona. We have worked with some edibles companies in Arizona as well, doing everything from recipe videos to some short commercials, videos for same with them, like event videos and internal videos. So kind of spans the whole range.
It's really interesting. So, and you're actually leading me right into my next question for you. Are one of the things that I think people get stuck on are the types of videos that you can make. Right? Like we're doing live video right now, but that is one small type of video and the broad array that you can use for your business. So, what types of videos do you find companies gravitating towards and that you think are most effective?
Sure. So this is a great question because it's a very there's a lot of ways to answer.
Yes, there are.
Yeah. So let me see how I want to start this. Because you and I were chatting about this before we jumped on too, and this is like a really good thing to I think start off with to explain to people the differences between videos, but the use cases as well, and how they
Mm-hmm.
might be different across the industry. So you have obviously, as a couple good examples, you have product videos. So these would kind of be like your standard, I like to call them like your Burger King commercial where you see the food and the product. And it's really just showing off, here is the thing that we sell. Here is the product we make. Um, it's trying to put it front and center and with its best glitz and glamour surrounding it. Um, then obviously you have you have commercials, regular TV commercials that might be more definitive of the whole brand, but are still kind of trying to get you to purchase or to buy. Now with the advent of social media, you obviously can break things down even, be more nuanced with it. Like you have influencer ads. You could find someone who has a strong following who just says, hey, I use the product. And they could be shooting that on their iPhone, right? Or on their computer, that you don't need a whole crew to go out there and do anything to get that. You just give the person a script and you say, hey, promote our product. We'll give you a free product. We'll give you a coupon code. We'll give you commission. Other than that, though, the big one that we do a lot of is brand identity videos. And these are more the, this will kind of help us segue into our next piece, but these are more the storytelling. These are the, who is your brand? Who started the company? What was the reason for starting the company? Is there a story behind you that drove you to this industry? And those tend to, depending on what you do, those videos can have a lot of impact, or if they're not properly marketed, they can also, kind of fall flat. So to recap just a little bit, I want to give a couple examples of where some of these videos might be more effective for some companies. And you and I were chatting about this a little bit before too, right? So if you're in the cannabis industry and you have a physical product, right? Let's say you're an edibles company with gummies or with, baked goods or something like that. You kind of want to let people know, buy our product. And a brand identity video might be really helpful if you're trying to inform people on, once again, the story and the mission behind the company. But the goal is always, come purchase our product. Let's show you our product is the best. And I think you can do that through whether it's a product video or maybe a testimonial videos, something that compares your product to another competitor, or has client, feedback as to why they should, someone should be purchasing your product. Those can be very effective because they get people in the door, they get people to your website, they get people searching up your brand, which on top of helping drive sales also helps your SEO ranking. It has a kind of a entourage effect across the board. Now, if you, on the other hand, are a service provider, let's say that you have a lab that you white label and you make distillates, or you provide several services to growers or to a company that wants to have distillate made for them, have shatter made for them, something like that. You might probably benefit more from a brand identity video, because the vendors coming to you are going to be more interested, I think, in most cases. Like, yes, price is going to be important, but they also want to know, okay, what is the quality? How do I know that I can trust these people? And that video is going to give you kind of a snapshot where if they can't get right to you via your customer service line, or if they can't get right to you via an email to set up a meeting, that video is going to be that first step or that first contact point before they can talk to you to say, hey, even if we can't talk right now, check out this video. It really summarizes why we're doing what we're doing and why you should reach out to us.
And I think that's really important. One of the things that I always tell companies is that you at least need to have your face on the website, right? Like if you want people to trust you and know that you're not, especially for the CBD side specifically, that you're not, that you're creating products that you expect people to trust, you need to trust them as well by showing up on your website. And that's like the bare minimum. Ideally, it's absolutely creating a brand video and videos on your website where people can get to know, like, and trust you and actually hear from you that you think your products are good as well. And I think that's a very nuanced thing that a lot of people miss the reason why, right? They get afraid to be on video, or no one wants to see my face, or whatever the reason is. I've heard a lot, and I'm sure you've heard 3 times as many. But if you're creating a product or a service that you need to stand behind, you need to stand behind it and show up in various ways. And I think it's something that a lot of people miss. Now, by the time you talk to them, they've already decided they want to do that. But how many times do you run into people that don't want to put themselves in the video? They just want you to create a video.
Yeah, that is something that we run into every now and again. Kind of like you said, by the time that they're reaching out to us, whether it be through a friend of theirs, referral source of theirs that suggested us to them, they
Mm-hmm.
usually have had one point of contact that has convinced them, okay, we need to do this.
Yeah.
And by the time they get to us, it's more about fleshing out the idea and making sure that they have the budget to execute it. Um, and that's usually where we are in terms of conversation. We do run into it every now and again, though, where you get someone who really wants that video made, but then they're like, well, I don't want to be in it. Like
But not
that's not.
me.
And look, here's where I sympathize, because when I've had to get in front of the camera, I'm like, oh man, this is weird. Like I belong on that other side of it. But then again, the response we've had, whether it be on Instagram or on YouTube, when we do put out the video and it's me talking to the audience and kind of just filling in business owners on like, hey, here's what our quote process looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what a meeting with us looks like. Here's things that we're going to ask you when we sit down to talk about your video. The response has been overwhelmingly positive, and it kind of reinforces that notion that I had, and that we've read about, we've kind of researched a bit, and then to do it ourselves was really validating to say, okay, when you put yourself out there and you're the company owner, people respond to it well because they see that you're willing to be authentic and willing to, try and show people like, hey, okay, I want to be an expert in my field, or I feel like I know enough to give some valuable input. Um, let's have a conversation. Listen to what I have to say, and hopefully you get something from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely true. And I think that it's something that stops people and it holds them back in a way that they shouldn't be held back, right? Like one of the first things I do is go to the website, like I said, and look to see who started the company, who works there, and who, why did they start it. And it's less so, and only because it's something that I'm putting in my body, right? Like I want to know that they cared enough to put quality ingredients in so that I make sure that I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to feel good or whatever it is. And so that's part of knowing who the people are who are behind it. And video is such an efficient way to tell that story, and it's a way that people are asking for more and more.
Yep.
Go ahead.
That one thing that this just popped into my head, and I figured it'd be good to mention is, the service we offer, that Wolfenberg Media offers, is more your traditional. Like we come out, we'll shoot the interviews, we'll shoot the commercial, we'll shoot the cinematic footage of your business or the process. That being said, if you're a brand that is still trying to figure out some of those pieces, there's never been a better time than now, because you have a ton of free resources also. Facebook Live, Instagram Live, Snapchat. I mean, all three of these are tools that, if used right for the right brands, you can leverage for free for more exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that it should be your be all end all and kind of like your way of getting away with never hiring a video production company to come out and shoot something, or hiring even just a freelancer to come out and get some video shots for your website, for the header on your site, or for your Facebook page. But there are tons of tools that are available now for free, where let's say you're not at the point where you don't have the budget for it yet. Leverage the free tools you've got. Use those tools as much as you can, because people connect with it. Even the Zoom calls, I see so many businesses now, especially on LinkedIn, they're recording the Zoom calls, and this has become a way to have conversation. Like you're in California, I'm in Arizona, but we're talking.
Yep.
And people can still see not just that you and I are talking, they can see my facial cues, your facial cues. There's, as much as possible, they're able to figure out like, okay, is this guy full of crap or not?
Right.
And is she really listening or not? And it's kind of a nice thing.
No, it's absolutely true. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't really fully understand how much is available, A, for free, but B, one question I have, and then I want to talk about storytelling. One question I have though is, you brought it up, right? There's free tools, and free tools are going to get you so far. At what
Yes.
point do you recommend that companies start to look at doing a brand identity video, or having a professional crew come in and shoot what they're doing? Because I think that there's like almost a tipping point right there.
I agree with you. I think that, the same, I think this is across the board with any industry. So obviously with cannabis, I think it's more crucial now because when we have meetings with clients in the cannabis industry, it still is one of the few industries where we have to do more selling and convincing that they need this than other industries. Right, that's another thing you and I were chatting about just before we jumped on here. Um, I can't say I know exactly what that tipping point is. I think it's going to vary brand to brand, but I would definitely say that, if you're first getting started, your startup company, if you can afford to even just find a local videographer to, you know, come in and maybe pay them a day rate, pay them their couple $100 just to come in and shoot a little bit and get some B-roll. When you go to a company's website and you see that in their banner versus some stock image, it does have an impact. It shows that you are like, because I think people are starting to understand that, like, yes, on the higher end, this is an expensive process. So it gives a little bit more credibility to your brand, even if you find a way to spend a little less on it.
Yeah.
So I would say that to answer your question, the point to really look into investing is when are you ready to make your brand look like $1 million versus looking like that local company. And you don't have to spend $1 million to get there. You don't have to dump thousands of dollars to get some pieces of it going right off the bat. You can kind of find ways to work it into a smaller budget in the beginning.
Sure.
When you get to the point where you're starting to look at campaigns, I mean, we're currently working on one right now with a client where it's like, okay, we're looking at dropping a couple videos over the summer, and then there's going to be videos that come out throughout the rest of the year that are really part of their campaign. And those are thought out. Those require storyboarding. Those require location scouting. They require me reaching out to, several sound stages throughout the valley and getting quotes on, okay, if we're in this studio for 2 days, 10 hours both days, how much is that going to cost? If we have to do casting, are we reaching out to local actors, or are we, so I could go on and on because there's so many pieces to this process, but it's like you can do some of these pieces on a smaller level and save some costs, but still have an awesome presentation. That if you go to a competitor's website and all they have is pictures, the viewer, the client, the patient, whoever it is who's landing on your website, vendor, like they're going to have a different experience.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just there's something inside that moving pictures creates a little bit more of a nostalgic or a bought-in feel.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. And I think the other thing that I want to add to what you were saying, and you kind of touched on it, is that it's not just like, okay, yeah, I can now afford this, but also if your brand is positioned at a very high level and you're a high-end luxury type brand, you need to be doing video and art and everything else that matches that brand, right? So if you're kicking off with a high-end brand, you need to start it right away. Like, don't try and do that yourself.
Absolutely. I think, not to, just as an example, because this has, in my circle, this one keeps getting brought up, but the Kiva Lost Farm animation video is like a great example of that. And I would assume that they spent a lot of money on that, but it is a beautiful video. And it's a really good example of a brand that spent some time getting to know who they are, what the message they're trying to put out there is, and then really leaning into the visual side of that to give people more than just, oh, this tastes good and we have a fun or trippy or an adventurous experience. It's like, oh, we're going to give you the visual to match that, to really sell you the idea. And it was very well executed.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And on that note, let's talk about storytelling. It's one of my favorite topics.
Yeah.
But can you talk a little bit about how video can really help with storytelling and how you work with clients in terms of that, telling that story?
Sure. So, I think hopefully, like you and everyone who's watching this has spent some time either going to the movies or, grew up maybe watching some movies with friends or family that really spoke to them. I think there's these narratives throughout history, these heroes' journeys that you see in a movie that are kind of universal, that transcend, you know, race, color, religion. Like there's just some pieces of that, of stories in general, that are, they're so deeply baked into our DNA that we enjoy to hear them, we enjoy to watch them, we enjoy to read about them. Connecting the visual component to that can really help people connect to a brand or to whatever service you're offering is. And I think you see this more with, you know, talking specifically about the brand identity videos or a commercial, whether it's humorous or heartfelt, because then you can really play around with the idea of like, okay, here's a brand identity video. Not only are we going to talk about the history of this individual, but maybe we'll touch on how the reason they got into this started this company is because they were involved with the negative aspects of the law. At one point, they felt like this industry got a bad rap, and you can, that helps people relate with your brand. That helps sell the story that not only are you out there doing this because you believe in it, but that you're out to help the little guy. You're out to help the people who have been negatively affected by cannabis prohibition. So that's just one example, right? On a more comical example, you know, people like to laugh. And when they laugh and they take something in that's funny to them, you know, ideally they'll remember it better. People will remember situations in which a certain emotion was evoked, and they felt it really strongly. So this is why, you know, maybe movies like Anchorman had so many memorable quotes that people would just say, you know. It's because it made them laugh, and it stuck with them, and it was so ridiculous that they're like, oh man, I'm going to find situations to use this in my everyday life.
Are you just using Anchorman because I'm in San Diego?
I mean, it is a good fit. Just kind of throwing that out there.
Yeah, super subtle.
Yeah, you know. But that kind of stuff works really well too, because once again, if you can use humor to tell a story, it's something that people can be like, oh man, yeah, I've had that situation. That's funny. And then it sticks in their head. Once again, it's relatable just on a different level. One of the reasons some car commercials, as cut and paste as they are successful, is because they sell you on the idea of either luxury or adventure or convenience, you know. And it's across the board. It's like, if you're looking at the SUV, it's convenience and comfort within the family. If you're looking at a BMW, it's look how badass and luxurious you're going to be. And if it's a Jeep or a GMC, it's like, look how adventurous you're going to be riding through the dunes, through the desert, you know. And maybe a lot of people don't ever use the car like that, but that messaging tells a story of, if you buy this product, you are this kind of person.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned a couple really interesting things that I want to touch on. One being the hero's journey, right? So Star Wars is always the original. New Hope is always the best example of that. Hunger Games falls in there too, but it's that story of the hero's journey, and Luke Skywalker is the quintessential example of that, right? It's like he took the blueprint for the hero's journey and was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. But I think that the other thing of that that's really important that I see when I'm when I'm helping companies with their marketing, is that you are not the hero. As the company, you are not the hero, right? We saw this really with that terrible Pepsi commercial. There were so many things wrong with that commercial, but the one with the Kardashian Jenner. But the problem with that is that they made themselves the hero, right? By handing Pepsi over, like, Pepsi's the thing that solved all the problems. Whereas anytime you look at, Luke Skywalker is the hero in that, but as the brand company, you're the guide, right? So your customer's the hero, and you are the one that helps them get there. And I think that's a key point that most companies miss, because they're like, oh, great, we're the hero. Look at how we changed all these lives. But that's not true, because that's not what customers want to hear. They want to hear that they want to see how their lives can be changed. So it goes into... Go ahead.
Oh, man, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is one of the biggest parts of making sure you're making an effective video ad too, is people don't... we ran into this a lot with substance abuse.
Oh,
and
okay.
making a video ad for a treatment center, you can talk all day about what modalities you offer. You can talk all day
No
what
one cares.
kind of therapies you offer. People don't care. They want to know how to save my son, my daughter, my husband, my wife, my girlfriend, my mom, my dad. They don't want to hear about the services. They want to hear about the benefits.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes in tandem to what you're saying, which is like some person buying from your brand doesn't want to hear about why they are the savior, why they are the best brand. But how is this going to help me
Yeah.
and make me become the hero of my own journey, the hero of my own life?
Yeah, there's a really good Airbnb commercial because I teach this as well when I'm teaching at the university. That's why I'm
Mm.
like in professor mode. I'm like, oh, let me tell you the examples I have, and then we can do this. But there's like just even the Google ad that was in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, right? Where all it is someone searching, trips to Paris, falling in love with in Paris, long distance relation, how to do a long distance relationship, moving to Paris. Like the entire story of this person's life, all the way to kids, was played out through their Google searches. And it was just
Mm.
such a visually interesting way because all the screen showed was their Google search, right? It didn't show anything else. And just shows how much power you can use with good storytelling and minimal video. Like you don't have to go all out with crazy videos with the drones flying in and production. And there goes my dog. I apologize. He's agreeing.
I was going to say
He's like on it.
you've got the dog. I've got my brother getting the camera gear ready for a shoot later, so
Perfect.
we're good.
Yeah, but they're all agreeing with us because it's how you can tell that story and how you can do it visually. And a lot of times when we think of video, it's either talking head or like fancy cinematography. There is a middle ground there that yeah, you can do
Yes.
both of those things, but it's not always going to be right for everybody. And I think that I know we only have a few more minutes, so I really want to touch on the last thing that you and I were chatting about beforehand is that once you've got your story and you've got this amazing video, what do you do with it?
Mm,
I've seen so many
great
people
question.
throw it on their website and then they're like, oh, that didn't work for me.
Right. That is a fantastic question because it's something that we have learned to just ask in every single conversation, which is where are you distributing this? How are you distributing it? Is this part of a bigger video campaign? Or are you just planning on having it live on your website? And if the answer is no, we just want it to live on our website, that's okay,
Yeah.
but just understand that you're making a big investment for something that's just going to live there. So with cannabis, this has typically been a tougher question because other than them just putting it on YouTube and hoping it doesn't get taken down, cannabis industry hasn't been able to take advantage of traditional video marketing the same way that a lot of other, industries would have. But that being said, things are slowly opening up, and that doesn't mean there aren't other alternatives, right? So even if you can't pay for ads on YouTube, even if you can't pay for ads on Facebook and Instagram, one of the greatest like returns on investments is if you have employees, make sure every single employee has that video link in the signature of their email.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're using Gmail, and I don't know about necessarily all the other email clients, but like I know the Gmail automatically if there's a video link, like the receiver will get at the bottom underneath the signature, they'll get a preview to click on it, and it brings you right to YouTube or wherever the video is hosted on Vimeo or YouTube. Another good one is if you have something like MailChimp or Constant Contact, make sure that you are sending that video out as like a banner or within the body of those email campaigns, because when people are scrolling through that, I think it was HubSpot had a statistic that it was like in 2018, it was about 200% higher click-through rate for email campaigns that included a video within the header or within the first paragraph. Mm-hmm. And we've noticed it even within our own, when we would do a couple email campaigns and put out a blog, the ones that had videos attached, much higher engagement. Posts on social media, even if it's not a paid one, when we post a video versus posting even just like a behind the scenes photo, it's almost double, if not more. People
easily
want to see the video. They don't care as much about the image or about your words, unless you're talking about something super impactful and it's well thought out. But if you're just posting stuff as a way to generate traffic and generate a little bit more conversation on your site or on your social media, if you can put a video on there, you're probably going to have better results.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could literally talk to you about this all day. I mean, just gauging from the like before chat we had and then this. I'm like, we're at time and I know you need to jump off because you have a video shoot that you are going to.
Yes, we're actually going to shoot a music video today out in the desert. So we are, yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. Taking a step back from some of the brand stuff for today and jumping headfirst into the all out, throw everything at the wall creative. So
I love it.
Pretty excited about it.
Normally I do a speed round. I'm going to skip that just because of time, because our conversation ran long. But I would like to ask you one question. Can you tell everyone where they can learn more about you and reach out to connect with you and your company?
Absolutely. So if you are looking for us online, our website is wolfenbear.com. It's spelled a little funky, but WULFENBEAR. On Instagram, we're WulfenBear Media. On LinkedIn, you can find me, Bear Prandelli. And we have a LinkedIn page as well. We have a Facebook page as well, just WulfenBear Media on all the different channels. Yeah, so that's how you can find me.
Fantastic.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. Those of you watching, if you have any questions for Bear and myself, drop it in the chat and we will get back to you. Thank you so much for being here, Bear. I really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kendra.